Hello everyone. Here is one more session on the infertility. In this, we'll talk about investigations of the female. First, we should know when investigations are required. Investigations are required, they are advised when, on examination of the patient, the causative factor, the cause of the infertility is not known. For example, vaginal causative factors can be known through the per vaginal examination of the patient or per speculum examination of the patient. So, on clinical examination, when the cause is not detected, at that time we need to go for investigations of the female. And these investigations should also be done step by step. All the investigations are not done simultaneously. So, we start with the first investigation, ovulation test. Ovulation tests are done to know the time of the ovulation. Now, when the woman has normal menstrual cycle, we know that in the 28 days menstrual cycle, ovulation occurs approximately at 14th day of the cycle. But if the woman has irregular menstrual cycle, either early menses or delayed menses, shorter menstrual cycle or longer menstrual cycle, at that time the time of the ovulation cannot be exactly known. So, to know the time of the ovulation, different tests are carried out like basal body temperature. It is basal, BASAL, endometrial biopsy, and serum progesterone. We start with basal body temperature, also called BBT. Mouth temperature should be recorded every day for 1 minute in the morning. So, when the patient wakes up, before she comes out of the bed, the temperature of the mouth should be recorded, and it should be recorded every day for 1 minute. Prior to recording of this temperature, any kind of drink or smoking is not allowed. So, no drinks, no smoking. Temperature should be recorded in the graph or table form for 3 to 4 cycles continuously, starting from the first day of menses till next one. So, this recording of the temperature should be done every day. It should be continued for 3 to 4 cycles, and it should be started from the first day of menses till the next one. So, continued throughout the month. Now, on recording this temperature, what we find? In ovulatory cycle, zero point 0.5 to 1 degree Fahrenheit rise in temperature occurs during the luteal phase over the proliferative phase. So, when the luteal phase begins, at that time 0.5 to 1 degree Fahrenheit rise is seen in the temperature. When the ovulation occurs, there is sharp drop of 0.5 degree Fahrenheit in temperature. So, sharp drop of 0.5 degree Fahrenheit temperature at ovulation. So, these fall indicates that ovulation has occurred. This luteal phase rise in temperature is due to thermogenic effect of temperature, progesterone. Due to thermogenic effect of the progesterone, you will find this luteal phase rise. Now, you can get this rise in temperature or fall in temperature only when body temperature remains normal throughout the month, right? If body temperature remains consistent throughout the month, then only you can get the rise in the temperature or fall in temperature. But suppose if the woman has lack of sleep, due to some reason she could not complete her sleep, cannot sleep for the sufficient time, sometimes she may have mental tension, or sometimes she may have suffered from any fever. So these condition will alter the basal body temperature. In this condition, temperature of the body may not be normal. There is already rise in temperature or fall in the temperature. So at that time, you cannot exactly make the rise whether it has occurred due to luteal phase, the fall in temperature whether it is due to ovulation. So BBT, recording of the body temperature, is reliable only when the temperature of the body remains normal, remains constant throughout the month. If there is alteration in the temperature due to any of these reasons, then this method will not be reliable. Next method is, or next test is endometrial biopsy. The sample is taken on the 21st to 23rd day of the cycle, and this can detect secondary endometrium. We have to take the sample of the uterine wall. Endometrial sample should be taken. So when you take the sample on 21st 23rd day of the cycle, you can detect secondary endometrium, which may point towards ovulation luteal effect on cycle, right? So from these also you can know the exact time of the ovulation. Third test is serum progesterone. A level of 3 nanogram per ml indicates ovulation. When the serum progesterone level is 3 nanogram per ml, this indicates ovulation has occurred. Level of 3 to 10 nanogram per ml indicates it is suggestive of luteal phase defect, and level of 10 to 15 nanogram per ml indicates good luteal function. So depending on these values of the serum progesterone at the different time of the menstrual cycle, you can get the idea of different phase of the menstrual cycle. So these are the ovulation tests. These tests are first done when on finding these tests normal, or on getting these tests, when you get the time of the ovulation, you can advise the patient accordingly. Why these tests are important? Because depending on this result of these tests, we give the advice to the patient. Advice related to the time of the coitus. You know the safe period and the fertile period. In the normal menstrual cycle, the first 10 days and last 10 days of the cycle are safe period. During this period, there are least chances of conception. So the woman or the couple who wants to avoid pregnancy, they can go for the coitus during this safe period without fear or without chances of getting conception. But the middle 10 days from 11 to 28 day of menstrual cycle is called fertile period, because ovulation occurs during this period, and because of this there are maximum chances of conception during this period. So when you get the approximate time of the ovulation from this ovulation test, you can advise the patient to have coitus during these days, because you will get the range of the ovulation time. So because the cycle is irregular, when we are continuing the test for 3 to 4 cycles, we will get a range of the ovulation time. So during this period, we can advise the patient to have coitus without fail. This will increase the chance of conception. So if patient doesn't have any abnormality or any other causative factor, when the time of the coitus is maintained, it is conducted, it is done, it is performed at the time of the ovulation during fertile period, the woman may conceive without any fail, right? So these advice can be given depending on the result of this ovulation test. But suppose if you cannot find any causative factor, or this ovulation test does not help the patient much, you may go for the tubal patency test, because another important reason cause for the infertility is blockage in fallopian tube. Patency means open. So we can perform the test to know whether fallopian tube is open or it is blocked. Different tests are performed for this. These tests are Rubin test, HSG, it is hysterosalpingography, and laparoscopy. First is Rubin test. It is also known as tubal insufflation test. Insufflation, that means the air is blown into the fallopian tube. It is performed after 2 days of cessation of the menses, but should be performed within 14 days of 28 days cycle. In these tests, CO2 gas or air should be used. It should be done without anesthesia. The test is done without anesthesia. Anesthesia is not needed. But when the patient is non-cooperative, patient is apprehensive, at that time you may need to use anesthesia. So the test may be done after anesthesia. The test is negative when both the tubes are blocked. Test is negative when both tubes are blocked. Air cannot be passed. The test in positive test, at least one tube is patterned. So when one tube is patterned and the other one is blocked, you will find the test positive. False negative due to tubal spasm. You can see the test is positive when you blow the air into the fallopian tube and it comes out through the fimbria. But if somewhere blockage is there, then air cannot reach beyond that blockage, cannot pass through that blockage. So that means the test is negative. So it may be false negative due to tubal spasm. When there is constriction in the fallopian tube, you may find the test false negative. It is false positive due to leakage in the apparatus. Whenever there is leakage in apparatus, the instrument which we are using to blow the air, if we can blow the whole quantity of the air, we mean that it has completely reached, but actually it has been leaked through the apparatus. So at that time you will find the test false positive. Nowadays this test is not done. It is not done presently. Another test is hysterosalpingogram. It is also the tubal patency test. Hystero, that is uterus, salpingo is fallopian tube. So examination of both fallopian tube and uterus is called hysterosalpingogram. It is performed on 6 to 10 day of cycle. It is radiological test. Radio opaque dye is introduced into the uterus, and after that radiological examination of the uterus is done to visualize uterotubal canal. If fallopian tube is patterned, dye will pass through fallopian tube and will come out into the peritoneum through the fimbria. So you can visualize uterotubal canal through the X-ray. If there is blockage in fallopian tube, then you will find that the dye has reached only up to that blockage. It cannot go beyond that blockage. So this is how you can know the blockage and the level of the blockage also, where the blockage in fallopian tube is present. Nowadays this test is not done because of the radiation risk. Third test is laparoscopy. It is very valuable diagnostic aid for tubal patency. Nowadays it is widely done. It is commonly done to know the tubal patency. It is done when salpingography shows abnormality. When on examination of the fallopian tube, when you find or you suspect abnormality, to confirm it you can go for laparoscopy. It is also done in the unexplained infertility. Sometimes even though you have gone various investigations, you have examined the patient very good, still you cannot find out the cause of the infertility. That is called unexplained infertility. So in such cases also you may go for the laparoscopy. Methylene blue dye is injected into uterine cavity through uterine cannula. Methylene blue dye is used for the examination of the uterus and tubal canal, and with the help of the uterine cannula, this dye is injected into the uterine cavity. Test is false negative due to tubal spasm. Now I told you when you get the test positive and negative in case of tubal patency. Pelvic endoscopy can diagnose peritoneal factor of the infertility. So whenever the causative factor is in the peritoneum, pelvic endoscopy is also useful. For example, tubal morphology and the adhesions, endometriosis, ovarian morphology. So when these are the causative factors, pelvic endoscopy is diagnostic. Then we have to examine the cervical mucus, because cervical mucus should be favorable to allow the sperm transport. If cervical mucus is unfavorable, then also it affects the motility of the sperms and the survival of the sperms. So another test are test for cervical factors. This is post-coital test, PCT. It is also called Sims-Huner test. At the presumed time of the ovulation, within 8 hours following intercourse, in the morning or at night, the cervix is exposed. So cervix should be exposed within 8 hours. preferably within 2 hours after the coitus, either in the morning or at night. What time? At presumed time of the ovulation. When you are expecting ovulation, at that time cervix should be exposed. Mucus aspirated by the plastic pipette with syringe and placed on a glass slide. The mucus is placed on the glass slide. It is examined under high power after placing the cover slip. This is how the cervical mucus sample is collected and the slide is prepared from it. Test is positive if more than 5 motile sperms are found in cervical mucus. Because the test is done within a very short period after the coitus, the semen is likely to be into the cervix only. It has not yet, the sperms have not yet traveled up. So in the cervical mucus, if you find 5 or more than 5 motile sperms, that means the test is positive. Or you can say the cervical mucus is good. It is favorable for the conception or for the sperm travel. Test is negative due to faulty intercourse, when the intercourse is not done properly, when there is oligo or azoospermia, when the sperm count is less or sperm count is nil, that is oligo or azoospermia. At that time sperms will not be found in the cervical mucus. And poor timing of the test. The test is done so long after the coitus. At that time the sperms have travelled up, it has gone up into genital tract. So at that time you may not find the motile sperms into cervical mucus. So even though sperms are motile, they cannot be seen in the cervical mucus. This is not a substitute for semen analysis, right? Through these tests, when we find the motile sperm, this doesn't mean that we should not go for the semen analysis, or we can go for the post-coital test in place of semen analysis. Semen analysis is must, because through these tests we can know only about the motile sperms. Through the semen analysis we can know many other information about the sperms. So it is must in case of the infertility. This test is no longer recommended. It is not advised nowadays. After that, endocrinopathy. You can go for the certain hormonal test, that is serum TSH, prolactin, FSH, LH, dihydroepiandrosterone, testosterone and progesterone. These all in some way affect the ovulation. So these tests are advisable in case of the irregular menstrual cycle. Then blood test. Hemoglobin to know the anemic status, WBC count, ESR, blood group, VDRL, and when the patient has family history of diabetes, we may advise for PP2BS, postprandial blood sugar. It is done, tested after 2 hours of lunch. Right? So these are the different blood tests advisable to the patient. So this was all about investigations of the female. In the next session we will talk about treatment of the infertility. Thank you.